Hello, my lovelies. Happy Wednesday. Happy scoping out. How is everybody today? I hope that you have been creating a great weekend and week as we're experiencing this big shift from one political leader to another. I have a lot to process today, and I hope I can manage to somehow stay articulate through this, because there's so much rattling around in my head that I want to share with you. Normally what I try to do on these is show you through my own life experience how I use the tools that I have and that I use, so that you can see in real life that this isn't just lip service, that these ideas of self-empowerment and self-improvement and personal development are actually something that even those of us who create these tools use. We create them because they work. It's pretty much that simple. So, today, however, I don't know that I'll be sharing as many tools and how-tos as I am just giving you my personal experience, because I've had a significant shift and change in myself. If you've been coming to these for a while, you know that one of the things that has really brought up my need for personal work has been this election. Well, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. What I'm doing with sharing this, I'm not trying to convince you to love or hate anybody. I'm just showing you that our work comes up in different ways. And I've been doing this work for so long that it comes up differently for me in the stuff that is really close to home, like my personal relationships, my divorce, raising teenagers and going through the angst and the way they treat you differently from month to month, minute to minute sometimes. Those things I've gotten really good at. I've gotten really practiced at. And one of the ways I was shown where I have work left to do was because of this election, because of the way it just so profoundly triggered me. It triggered every negative, ugly emotion in me that is there. Things that I thought, I'm like, oh, I'm past it. It's good. I've moved on. No. I haven't necessarily been my best self 24/7 since the election, so I've been shown in a lot of ways where my personal work is. And that is the gift. I've said this before. That is the gift of our hardships, is that they become a reflection for the work that we have to do. Now, I've got a lot to cover, so I actually wrote notes today. So if I look down, understand, I'm just trying to make sure that I give you everything that's been rolling around in my head. I wanted to write an article, but what I've been doing has been on such an energetic level. It's been really hard to find words. So hopefully in this thinking aloud, processing out loud process, I'll get there. And maybe there's something in there that is helpful for you as well. So as I said, I've been using my own tools. And one of the tools that I use is the grief plan, which you can find in my Conscious Transitions course. You can go to my store online, or tiffanyhammond.com/conscious transitions, and I'll put links in the thing on YouTube and on my blog and all that good stuff. But the point of me saying this is I really had what was on default for me in so many ways, in the areas that I had to heal and deal with my own shit, was no longer on default. I had to literally go back and reconstruct some of the things that I needed to reconstruct, and that was through the grief plan. And as I started looking at this, I started realizing I've gone through already again and again entire cycles of this grief process, right? There's denial. This can't be happening. This isn't real. There's no way. It won't last. He'll get impeached. Whatever, right? Like straight up denial. Went through that. Anger. How could he do this to us? How could his supporters do this to us? How could people vote for hate? You heard me talk about that in that very first scope after the election. And I've rewritten that narrative, so understand I'm not stuck there. But I went through that phase where I was very, very angry. And then I went through bargaining, where if others could just, if they could just understand, if they could just see what I see. And then, because I live by a you spot it, you got it, if I'm saying you should, that's for me, right? So I should. And this is where I got stuck in the bargaining, but I'll tell you the other side, right? Sadness, where you're finally just like, this is awful, and it hits your heart and you hurt, and then ultimately acceptance, where you go, okay, this is the thing that can't be changed. So where am I in that? What do I do with that? And during this entire process, because I believe we are love with a capital L, I believe that when we behave with love, we cannot be steered wrong. So this entire process, I've been holding the least in the light. I have been holding his followers in the light, just bathing them in golden, godly love light. Because at that point, even though I couldn't feel it in my heart, I know that we're all made up of that same stuff. So the very least I could do was try to look beyond my prejudices, beyond my own hurt, and try to see the truth. Try to see the big core truth that the least is no different than me at the core. What he is made of, that universal spark in a physical body, is exactly the same as me. So if I can see past this hallucination of our physical world, then at least I could hold a different space in my heart for him as a being of love. Somewhere underneath all of that ego, all of that limited mind madness that he has going on, at the core of that is a piece of himself that even he doesn't see. So I was trying to see it. I was trying to hold on to it this entire process. Even though my ego self, my limited mind madness, couldn't really believe it yet. Couldn't really hold on to it and trust it yet. But that's okay. It's called a practice for a reason, right? We practice coming back to love. We practice coming back to grace. So this entire time, I realized, okay, and this is where I got stuck in the bargaining, and I can only see it now in retrospect. I didn't really see it at the time. But there was a part of me that was like, okay, if I could just... Remember, one of the things was if they could just understand what we see, if they could just see what we see. So turn it around. If I can just see what they see, right? If I can just understand it the way they understand it. So I engaged in conversations, I read articles, I watched videos, held him and his followers in the light. I was going at it from this cognitive place where I really desperately wanted to see this the way that others saw this. And my one observation throughout every interaction, throughout every article, video, everything that I watched, engaged in, was that when people tried to justify this decision, it was mostly based on they were either ill-informed, misinformed, or being informed at all was completely irrelevant. Facts and figures, and that was irrelevant. They felt what they felt, and that's all that mattered, and the rest of you can go fly a kite, right? So that wasn't answering anything for me. I can't see, I still can't see the way that they see it. Okay. But there's still something in this for me, right? I told you about the you spot it, you got it. There's also the what we resist persists. So I know for darn good and sure, if I just go back into resistance, if I go back into that denial phase, this can't be happening, right? This can't be happening. It won't happen. It's not going to, he'll get impeached. He'll be sued, something, right? If I stay there, if I resist it, and if I fight with his supporters and I come out swinging at every front, I'm only going to be creating more of the problem. I'm only going to be creating more resistance, more misunderstanding, more refusal to be informed and look at actual facts, not just alternative facts, right? I'm going to create the defensiveness these people need to hold on to their point of view. So, and really, in all honesty, I can't ever make anybody change or see anything differently anyway. It's not up to me to change others. It's up to me to change me, right? So if I'm resisting this angst and anxiety within me, I'm also creating more of that because I can't get you to see what I see, right? Or if I continue to approach this from a cognitive standpoint, I can't see what you see. So I'm creating this continuous resistance and angst and anxiety about it. And this is something that for the longest time I could understand cognitively. I knew I was doing it, but I couldn't quite get there to drive any of this home to my belief system. So what has happened for me is as I went back to my tools, as I went back to every tool I have in my toolbox, primarily the tools I have in this conscious transitions, because I knew I was grieving. As I went back to that, the couple of things that I use to help me get through hard times, to help me let go of the grief and the angst and the hurt, is this idea, as I said, of viewing it spirit to spirit, instead of ego to ego, limited mind to limited mind. I try to come at it from an expansive mind to expansive mind, right? I try to come at it from a different place that is spiritual and lit up. It is God love. It is universal spark, whatever you want to call it. And I was doing that in my meditations. And I don't know that I would have got here if I hadn't started there. Because remember, there was a dissonance, right? It was perfunctory in essence. It was kind of going through the motions, to be honest. Last Thursday, something started to shift in me. Last Thursday, I think, because I had this practice, this bathing in the love. Remember, if I'm bathing him in loving light, I'm bathing myself in loving light. If I'm bathing myself in loving light, I'm bathing him in loving light, right? This activity at the spiritual and energetic level, it changes the vibration literally in your cells and in the mirror cells that happen in the people that are of our community. And guess what? We're a world community. Like, there's nobody that's exempt from this. So I believe that is what happened, is that because I kept that as a part of my daily practice, something was able to vibrate, get faster, and begin to move beyond this hallucination that I held for myself. Then I went to the Women's March on Denver. I'm in Colorado. Mine was in Denver. I went to the Women's March in Denver on Saturday. And the collective energy there was amazing. Now, I didn't agree with everybody's approach. Not everybody was coming at it from this loving space, but most people were. And clearly, even those that were coming at it from a frustrated place, they were still there to sort of bask in this collective feminine, this collective creative, high vibrational, compassionate energy. It felt good to be there. What happened in Saturdays and Sundays meditations then really surprised me. I mean, it did and it didn't, because I felt the shift coming. I started to get images. I started to get these impressions. I started to really genuinely to see past this physical hallucination, hologram, right? And I could feel this sense of, oh gosh, see, this is where I struggle, because how do I find words to convey something that's so spiritual? Let me use a scenario. This isn't necessarily the image I got. This was more the impression and the feeling I got. That Donald Trump, the least, remember, he's the least person able to change who I am. Here he was in his universal spark space, agreeing to come to the planet, to do whatever his part, his purpose on this planet was. And he came with almost a soul agreement to be the catalyst for the demise of the hallucination. Knowing it was going to be hard, knowing he was going to be demonized, knowing he was going to be the bad guy, knowing that what he was going to do was going to hurt all of us in the physical. In the physical realm, this was going to be very painful. It's a deconstruction. It's like when the butterfly in the chrysalis becomes goo and it completely deconstructs. We're in that phase, right? But there has to be a catalyst for that. That chrysalis has to form. The timing has to be right. The evolutionary part of the cycle has to be there. And he agreed to be that ingredient for us. He agreed at a soul level to do this really hard work. Not hard work at the soul level, hard work in the physical level. Right? And the moment I could feel that, the moment I could feel this deeper, more painful purpose, the purpose isn't painful. The process of the purpose is painful. Then I was overwhelmed with this deep, deep compassion. Now I saw him. I'm still grieving, still coming back in cycles, still don't have it perfect. But in that moment, I had this deep, profound compassion, not for the man, for the purpose, for the spark, for that deep role He's playing in the evolution of all of us at a deeper level. And in that space where I could feel compassion, all of my resistance melted away. All of this angst and ire and hurt and pain, there was nowhere for it to exist in my heart. There was nowhere for it to exist within me. And I woke up that morning, or the next morning, feeling like I was renewed. Feeling like I could now do that thing that I always say I try to do, and that is everything I do comes from a place of love. I don't write a letter, I don't make a post on social media, I don't work on my business unless I am in that loving state. And I'll tell you, it has been really hard for me to get there and stay there. But Monday morning, I woke up feeling the truth of that. That's why I'm saying there are things, today we're talking about that deeper truth. We're talking about what to do when that thing that can't be changed. How do you deal with that? And I've said before, acceptance and forgiveness isn't saying what they're doing is okay. It's not becoming a doormat and letting them walk all over you and get away with their bad behavior. That's not what it is. That forgiveness is taking back all of that energy that you've been investing in the fight, that you've been putting in the fight, taking back all of that energy, transforming it so that you can do something with it. So I've been called back to my business like nobody's business. I have been called back to this loving space in a way that I can't even remember. Now, my limited mind self forgets from time to time during the day. I still get it. This morning, for example, I woke up after seeing what has happened with the XL pipeline, and oh gosh, I don't even want to go through the list. My limited mind self woke up in a state of anxiety this morning. But I know now that there's this truth in my expansive mind self. I know now that something has shifted inside of me that can get deeper into that loving universal space that can see this and approach this from a completely different way. What I started on Monday from this loving space is a project called Letter a Day. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that every single day I'm writing a letter. It started out with the idea of being strictly to the least, but it's going to be to senators and businesses and wherever else I feel called to write the letters. Always from a place of love, always from a place of gratitude, and with specific requests. So if you follow me on Instagram at Triffany, just remember there's an R in there, Triffany Hammond, then you can see the letters that I'm posting. And if you are writing your own letters, tag me in it and I'll regram it so that we can really start to look at this transformation and request for change in us as spiritually evolving beings while doing something in the physical, right? While showing solidarity, while creating an ongoing essence that we all felt in the Women's March on Saturday, that compassionate, loving space where like, we are not alone. Oh, thank God. Even though this thing is inevitable, even though this thing is unchangeable, what is also unchangeable is this loving space, this loving, kind, forgiving, compassionate, feminine space. So I know I went really long today. I hope you understand. There's just so much. And I'm sure I'm going to stop this and I'm going to think of other things I wanted to say. But I just really had to share this with you. And I don't know what your deeper truth is. I just want to really encourage you. This was my deeper truth. It might look different, sound different, be different for you. And that's completely okay. The thing that I want to encourage you to do, if I was to assign homework, as I usually do on these, is to find that spiritual practice, whatever that is for you. For me, it's meditation, it's journaling, it's deep and meaningful conversations, but whatever that is for you, I want you to spend more time in that space. The solution to this, finding peace to this, is not going to happen outside. The action is, but the peace is not. The peace is only going to come from within. The peace is only going to come from this personal work that we do on ourselves. I encourage you to go deeply. Find your deeper truth and find that way that you and I are the same. That's going to be pretty easy. Find that way that you and the least are the same. Find that way that you and your conservative friends are the same. Or if you're a conservative, the way you and your liberal friends are the same. Come at it from an energetic place, and we'll stop this pros and cons list, this battle of facts and everything else that keeps us in a state of anxiety. Come inward, do that inside job of creating that happiness for yourself. Let me know how you do. I want to know how this work goes for you and what your deeper truth looks like. It may not look like mine. In which case, that's completely fine. You're here to do your purpose. I'm here to do my purpose. But I want to know what your purpose is. So let me know how it's all going for you. Please, please, please stay in touch with me. This one's huge. Share this video all over the place because I really want to know how people are coming to their own inner peace, how people are consolidating what has been at such dissonance for so long. Give yourselves a great big hug from me, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. I love you guys. Whew.